Good morning, everyone. Welcome. Always test the sound, make sure we're okay. Jake, good morning. Please always let me know if you can hear me. Everyone, when we start, always subject to, hey, Josh, good morning, everyone. Welcome. Great to have you on. We're looking for a great day, looking to answer some questions, see who wants to go live. Welcome, everyone. We are warming up all day. We always do a 3 p.m. LinkedIn. If you want to go live there or ask questions, you can join me on LinkedIn Live, Twitter, 3 p.m. Pacific time, 8 a.m. on Instagram, and of course Fridays, full trainings at 11 a.m., which seem to be pretty popular. Hey, Patty, welcome from San Francisco. Good morning. Good morning, Jayden. How do you keep your ego in check? Practice. Ego edges goodness out of your life. It edges gold out of your life. Ego is, to me, the biggest practice that we have, because the ego is what creates the interference, corrosion, the clouds between me and that unbelievable source of energy, light, love, and lessons that we're always connected to. In other words, inspiration. Leading to the question of the difference between motivation and inspiration. We want to be inspired. That will get us there. Motivation will just get us started. So make sure that you are in check. The first step of knowing your ego is to identify those feelings that we control from our ego. The need to be right, offended, separate, inferior, superior, anxious, angry, frustrated, guilty, resentful. All of these things, anything that makes you feel bad is probably associated with your ego. And you need to practice taking it from, maybe some things bother you for a year, maybe for a month, maybe for a week, maybe for a day, maybe for an hour, maybe for a minute. Keep on practicing, getting that time farther and farther, closer and closer to zero, right? I'm trying to keep my ego in check by the moment. And so trying to do that. What kind of music do you enjoy? All music that moves me. Looking to what makes me feel good, a higher vibration. Certain music you can hold and it makes you stronger, right? You can body test music, believe it or not, and know what makes you feel good. So I've been informed there's 2 special guests today. We got all types of special guests every day. Let's go ahead, take a quick question before we go live. What are your thoughts on subliminal messages? Wow. So considering there's 3 types of messages. One is at the conscious level. The conscious level messages are relying upon our senses, which are faulty, right? The way we see things, hear things, smell things, touch things, and taste things, and also our memory. Those are the 2 things in this conscious level. On the subconscious side, the messaging is stemming from 40,000 of the same thoughts that we have, and those that we access the most of the 40,000 of the same thoughts we have every day, neural pathways are formed. So if something we see, taste, hear, smell triggers or that access to a subconscious thought in that storage bin, then we can have an emotional reaction or impulse. We also can then create a physical response to that. And then even furthermore, if we access that, or the thing that's being accessed is accessed a lot, it's actually sending a signal to the epigenetic layer of our DNA. This layer of the DNA, this code, this quantum frequency that we have, this vibration that we hold, this energy that we have. So all thoughts, all ideas that are projected and perceived come through that continuum, and determined upon where and what effect it has. Subliminal messaging is real and can have a quantitative value to it. How to overcome procrastination. Baby steps, lower the bar, get started. Have a routine, have an adaptable routine and a regular routine. These are all things that will stop procrastination. If you study your calendar and do things now, it will stop procrastination. You got it. This is why people need to come. Your future is held by your habits. The habits are formed by all of these techniques. That's why we're doing a training on Road to Revenue, the habit machine, because I want to teach everybody how to create a machine that creates the habits that we have. Let's see here, going live. I'm supposed to have Superman there, my boy Mikey Diamond, welcome. I have a rocket scientist on. That's right. He has written a book that you don't have to think like a rocket scientist. There he is, the smartest man I know.
Hi. How you doing, David?
How are you?
Good. How are you doing?
Congratulations on your new book.
Thank you. Just came out today.
Oh, the cover looks great. It's Think Like a Rocket Scientist. So anyone out there who's had parents like mine told me, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. Anyway, I love your story, and I love the fact that not in the science part of what it is, but in the emotional intelligence side of being a rocket scientist, that the biggest advancements that we've made in technology, science, I think even in medicine, is this beautiful blend of math and emotional intelligence, energy and motion. And so I thought maybe I'd start by asking, could you share any one of your stories that you have about how that blend works, and how we integrate that in your new book about thinking like a rocket scientist?
Sure. I opened the book with the story of President John F. Kennedy stepping up to the podium at Rice University in 1962. He pledged to land a man on the moon and return him safely back to the Earth before the decade is out. But at the time, a manned mission to the moon was literally a moonshot. Many of the people, NASA officials themselves, thought that Kennedy was crazy. No American astronauts had worked outside of a spacecraft. No spacecraft had docked together in space. NASA didn't even know if the lunar surface was solid enough to support a lander, or whether the communications would work on the moon. So we jumped into the cosmic void and thought we'd grow wings on the way up. And we did. And it was that ideal blend of fantasy and pragmatism. And both were involved in that story. And a child who was 6 years old when the Wright brothers took their first power flight would have been 72 when flight became powerful enough to put a man on the moon and bring him safely back to the Earth. I mean, that's 66 years. That's nothing. That's a huge leap taken within a single lifespan. It's often celebrated as the triumph of technology, but it wasn't. It was a triumph of the humans behind the technology, and of this thought process they used to turn the seemingly impossible into the possible. So I wrote the book to share that thought process with readers and just share with them 9 simple strategies that anybody can use to make giant leaps in their work and life.
Yeah, and I love it because it is a matter of, from SAP that I work with closely about, they're having people read science fiction because the technology, some people believe, has surpassed our imagination. And we're not practicing the imagination, accessing, channeling, dreaming, all the important things that allow us to fill the void with math, right? I believe that, in your book, you talk about here how you have your imagination is a possibility once you imagine it. Now, what do we do to make it a probability, and then even your perspective or reality? And even though it's a short term of 66 years, as you said, to get to the moon, what we've done since then is even more extraordinary and even shorter amount of time. And so, and one of the interesting things I find about the moon is that all the other stories about the moon, what exists on the moon, why we haven't gone to the moon, whether we actually landed on the moon. Now, you are a rocket scientist, a legitimate rocket scientist. Can you put everyone's fears there's enough to worry about in the world? Can you give us some facts about the moon? Did we actually land on the moon? Is there other life on the moon? Is there like this whole big thing why we don't land on the moon again?
No, we definitely landed on the moon. I mean, it's there's a principle called Occam's razor that says the simplest answer is often the correct one. Can you imagine the size of the conspiracy that would have to be involved? Hundreds of thousands of people worked on the moon mission. They were all in this conspiracy together. No, we landed on the moon. It was one of humanity's greatest achievements.
I agree. Well, here's why I tell my kids when they read that stuff. I said, look, let's go back and watch Star Wars 1, which occurred far after we landed on the moon. Imagine just what technology had to exist for the filming, right? For what, if this is what Star Wars looked like in the early 70s, how could, they go backwards? Why won't they use that same video technology for the conspiracy that to create the best movie series of all times with their technology? I love going back and watching science fiction because you can see the advancement of the technology of the production of movies. I had Sam Pollard on, who worked with Spike Lee and Dwayne Wade. I'm more on the sports side, but we were talking about how history is so important because human nature never changes. And this type of space exploration, the sites of scientific advancements and media advancements all really show one thing. They allow us to have a portal into human nature. And that's really what your book is about. It really isn't about science. It's more about, hey, this is how human nature works, and let's not lose the superpowers that we are innate in our being.
Exactly. We're a species of moonshots, even though we've forgotten it in large part. We've been seduced into believing that small dreams are wiser than moonshots. But as you said, it's in human nature to dream big and to do amazing things that were once considered impossible. So the book is out today, and I'd love to offer a special bonus to your viewers, David, for getting the book. If you go to rocketsciencebook.com/playbook, which is David's podcast, you'll have two bonuses there. One is just a pack of like 12 videos with really small videos, 3-minute videos with actionable insights from the book that you can implement right away. And so you can find all of that at rocketsciencebook.com/playbook.
And the title is?
Think Like a Rocket Scientist. Simple strategies you can use to make giant leaps in work and life.
That last quick question, and I'm going to pin that up here so everybody can see it. Last question I have to know, because I grew up with a mom who always, it was doctor, lawyer, or failure, and I can't imagine telling my parents I want to be a rocket scientist. What age were you when you decided, you know what, I'm tired of everyone telling me to think like one, I'm going to actually be one?
Yeah, so let me quickly correct the URL. It's rocketsciencebook.com/playbook.
Perfect. Okay,
and in terms of the age, so I grew up in Istanbul, Turkey, and we were living in a small apartment and would get blackouts all the time. And when I was 5, I would get terrified. So my dad came up with a game. He would get my soccer ball, he'd light a candle, he'd rotate the soccer ball around the candle, and the soccer ball being the earth and the candle being the sun. And I was 5 years old, and I was hooked. That was my first astronomy lesson, and that's what I knew. I wanted to just do something with involving space. So it's been a lifelong dream.
My life changed at 5 too, when my dad left and I saw my mom crying over money, and I decided I'm going to be rich. I'm going to buy my mom a house and a car. My whole life has been around that relationship to money. So yours is around space and mine's around some other currency, but we both share an early aspiration and dreams and imaginations, all arbitrary and capricious to our being. But I think what's similar is we write different types of books with the same exact messaging. So I'm just so grateful. I'm going to repin your book back up there with the right URL. And I really appreciate you joining me, and I can't wait to read the entire book. So thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure, David. Thank you so much for having me on.
Awesome. Take care.
Bye.
All right. Ozan, amazing. Check out his book. Jake's going to get that back up there so I can pin it. And I think it's Rocket Science Book /playbook for him. But 7 simple strategies. And I think, that imagination, if you're not using this pause in your life to imagine what you want, which is so important, to imagine what you want. The why is always there. It's to help somebody or something. But the what and the how in these strategies in our book and in his book and so many other books are so important. Remember, human nature doesn't change. There has to be a blend between science and emotions, energy and motion. So Jake, if you can pin that back up there, I'd appreciate it, or someone on my team that's on here, go ahead and do that for him. We have been grateful to have all types of people in here, and we'll take a few more questions real quick. How do you control, master your self-destructive behavior? So what we want to do is practice, when we're practicing, and we're going to talk about this in the habit machine thing on Friday at 11 a.m., our training, is through that practice, you have to create this stop, drop, and roll behavior. We have to stop when we identify whatever it is we want to control. Right? There's four things in our life we can control: our mindset, our feelings, what we say and what we hear, and what we do. And so if we're not in the right mindset, if we're feeling the wrong feelings, if we're saying or hearing the wrong things, or we're doing the wrong things, whatever it may be, there's a habit machine. There's a practice that needs to be in play in order to stop, drop, and roll, and to be able to effectuate staying on the right trajectory, clearing away the clouds between that powerful source of light in the sun, in the lessons, in the love, in the truth that we're always connected to, that gets us there, no matter what the circumstance, that allows us to be tough. There are no tough circumstances. It just allows us to be tough. And then as we advance, we learn how to hold in that energy and light and lesson, and store it so we don't forget it, and then appreciate it, add value to it. And then we start working over here. How do we empower others to do that as well? So that process is the habit machine, which we'll go into detail and give all the pragmatic tools, tips, etc., to work within the conscious, subconscious, and unconscious, so that everyone can accelerate what they're doing. And let's go into the next question. I'm finding difficulty in applying your rule of four, controlling the act, speech, feelings, and thinking. Any advice? Yes. Detach yourself from the outcome. The best thing that we can do is to practice these things and detach our feelings from the outcome. We need to attach our feelings to the consistency. We have to attach our feelings to the persistency. We have to attach our feelings to the pursuit uh, of our outcome, of our potential, of our truth. And so utilizing a shift in the paradigm, usually when we're disappointed or feel shortages, voids, and obstacles, is because we've attached our emotions to that outcome, not to the consistency, not to the persistency, and not to the pursuit of the outcome or potential that we want. And once again, Friday, these are all things we're going to go over and give you some pragmatic advice. So it's free. Everything we do is free. You can get my books for free. I don't care. Just join us and share the message. My mission is to empower over 1 billion people to be happy, to get 1,000 of you out there, to empower another 1,000, to empower another 1,000 over my lifetime. Would be amazing. To create a collective consciousness of happiness would be extraordinary. Let's go ahead and take another question. Thank you for giving me so many great questions here. Love, career, family, how do you prioritize them? I love this question. Thank you. So in my adaptable routine, right, I have a daily routine where everything's the same. In my adaptable routine, I have to go by prioritizing what's important. So the first thing that I prioritize in my life is my health. About 2.5 years ago, I asked my wife what I could do for her, and she said, take care of yourself. Because if you take care of yourself, I know you'll take care of others. And I had always put my family first. I'd always put my activity I get paid for second. And what I found was when you put your family first and the activity you get paid for second, you always have an excuse not to take care of yourself. And so number one priority is take care of yourself. You can't give what you don't have. And health is most important. Happiness is most important, and they're symbiotic to each other. And then two is my family. And I indicate my priority by the man-made construct of time. How much attention plus intention so I get the coincidences out of the relationships that I want. So I prioritize by a minimum amount of time every day, because every single day, 2 minutes a day is worth more than 2 hours on a Saturday. So my wife gets 30, my 10-year-old gets 30, my 10-year-old son gets 30, my 3 teenage daughters get 2 minutes, my mom gets 1. And that consistent behavior gives me extraordinary exponential results. And then, of course, activity I get paid for is my priority next. And I use student in my calendar, doing it now, asking and attracting, and an inventory of my values in order to effectuate that, all under the umbrella of practicing ending fear. So I saw John Assaraf fly by, my boy, who always reminds me of the law of Goya, which he taught me, get off your ass, and the law of Joya, Jomo, the law of Jomo, joy of missing out. I used to have a fear of missing out, and I used to not be able to reconcile the woo-woo spiritual world. And I had one of my first interviews with John, and he told me he didn't believe in the law of attraction. He believed in the combination and blending, the law of Joya. So let's go ahead and go live. Hey, John, I really appreciate when you join me. Thank you so much. Maybe we can go live again. But meanwhile, we have someone else joining us, the unbelievable LA Spark. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
Good, Shanae. You are so wonderful. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to learn from you.
Oh, I'm excited to learn from you and everyone here, I'm sure, because one of the areas that have been hit the most is sports and, large gatherings. The XFL went bankrupt today. They filed, just extraordinary things happening. We don't know when you'll be able to play in front of a sold out crowd at Staples again, but that doesn't stop you from having to fulfill your requirement, your inspiration. For athletes, I see it just another thing to overcome. You wouldn't be where you were without these types of circumstances. Can you help people? Because I have found the consistent, persistent pursuit of your potential is best illustrated by extraordinary athletes like yourself. What are some of the tricks that you're using while you're at home, to be able to still stay consistent and persistent?
Well, being home has really been just a blessing in disguise. First and foremost, we have to thank all the essential workers because, every day before COVID-19, we sort of felt like everything that we're doing was essential already, right? Like everything, whether it's even posting to social media or going shopping, getting your nails done, me, like I have my natural hair out, like all those things, we thought those were essential activities, but they're really not. We're really right now in the place in society where the essential workers are the real heroes, the real people that we idolize. Because, being in the sports world, we're quick to be called like heroes and idols. That's not the case. It's those people on the front lines that are really saving lives right now. And I think during this time, it's been very abnormal, but it's been a good reset, recharge, recalibrate, most importantly, recover. Because I think we get caught up, like my lifestyle is a little crazy, meaning from December through February, I was on a flight coast to coast, LA to New York, LA to Connecticut, working for ESPN and just trying to also maintain my athletic, body and physique while doing all of that. I didn't really have much time to recover. And so I think this is kind of like God's way of telling us to take a step back, find out what's important, reset your mind, reset your body, reset your spirit, stay healthy, help those you can. But most importantly, just keep your mental game on point. And so I've just been recovering. I've been doing workouts in my house. For a while, I used to go to open parks to get some fresh air. That was the only time I would go outside. But I've just been using this time strategically. I think right now, a lot of people sort of are like, what am I going to do? It's okay to be patient about it. It's okay to just take some time and pause and think for yourself. And that's sort of what I've been doing so that when we are able to emerge, we can feel better about where the direction we're all heading.
Yeah, it's amazing how people think that just because circumstances change quickly or negative perceptions of what we hear and what we say, that it necessarily means that everything is going wrong or negative. If I can do anything, it would be to put this, lens of productivity, accessibility, and gratitude on that you have. It's so amazing. I've been blessed to have so many people like you that I'm dealing with every day. And there's that consistent, I call it the Meltzer Kaleidoscope out of ego, because I've lived my life knowing that what if, no matter what happens extraneous to me, I looked at it with this lens of how can I provide value? Two, how can I be accessible to others? And how can I access what I want? And then three, using that lens of gratitude, looking for the light, the love, and the lessons. And it's funny because when I ask people that question, everyone goes right to the light, the love, and the lessons and say, here's what I've learned, right? I'm not going to do things the same when I get out of here. I'm my own chief betterment officer. I'm making things better in my life, even though I wouldn't have chosen ever for this to happen. I can give you a long list of why I am so grateful. And one of them being, I sit every night. I could have a reality show called the Meltzer dinner and with my family, but they would take my children away when they saw what went on at dinner. But it is the most entertaining thing. And I sit there every night almost crying because I'm like, you know what? I have three teenage daughters, 21, 18, and 16. And there's no way that I could have dinner for a month or two every night with them without their friends involved, without distraction, just old school 1950s, Leave It to Beaver on the dirtier side. Trust me, my poor 10-year-old son has learned more at the dinner table in the last few weeks.
I bet he has.
But I've manifested everything I've wanted in my life of material goods, and none of it compared to these dinners. I've had dinners with some of the most powerful, wonderful, entertaining people, like you said, these pseudo celebrities that we all look up to, and I wouldn't trade one of my dinners that I've had. And I just have that appreciation and want everyone to kind of share into that experience and look for those things. What is one of the things that you're going to reflect back on and say, wow, I'll never be able to do this again?
You're right. You're right on it. So just having time with family. I am a professional athlete. I started playing basketball at the age of 10, and we fell into basketball and we fell in love with it. And so for my family, I come from a family that has heritage and lineage to Nigeria. And so for my family, my parents came and met randomly at Weber State, and then decided they were planning to go back to Nigeria, but they decided to build. My dad got a job with HP Compaq, and they decided to move to Houston and build a life in Texas with my dad getting this great job opportunity. So they married, started a family, 4 girls in the family. I'm number 2. And so everyone behind my parents, the generations behind my parents, my grandparents, great-grandparents, aunts, most of my cousins, everyone is back in Nigeria. We have some pockets in New Jersey, some in Utah, some in Seattle, but not much. So we didn't grow up with a lot of family around, extended family. And so this time, we fell into sports when I was 10, and then it sort of consumed our life. Granted, having Nigerian parents, the academics must always be fulfilled. So after, falling into basketball, my parents saw great value in it. They saw teamwork, camaraderie, work ethic, just discipline. They saw all those fundamental things. Plus, they have 4 girls in the house. They had to tire them out. You know what that's like.
Oh yeah.
And so basketball, at this point, we didn't think we were going to be super tall, but we all sort of grew. And so basketball, we fell into basketball, fell in love with it. And then next thing you know, my older sister gets a scholarship to Stanford University. 2 years later, I go join her. And then 2 years after that, she gets drafted #1 to the WNBA. 2 years after that, I join her. So ever since my big sis and we have 2 factions in our house. So my big sister and I, 2 years apart. My 2 little sisters are 2 years apart. And there's 4 years in between myself and number 3. But we're all really close, but we have our own dynamics. And so once NECA left for college, our life sort of changed. You know how it is with athletes. You go to college, it's pretty much a job. And then next thing you know, she goes to the WNBA. And for most WNBA athletes, if you don't know, we play overseas. So you'll play in the WNBA. We'll play in the WNBA from May to October. And then October to May, we're overseas. My sister played in Poland, 2 years in China, 5 years in Russia. I played in Italy, and I also played in China. And so from that cycle of NECA leaving home, she never really had time to come back home and spend time. Same with me. And then my little sisters during this time were going through college and having their own experiences too. So this is the first time that I've actually been able to be home for longer than 3 or so days since 2016 and 2014 when I had my injuries. And those injuries were the greatest form of adversity I've ever had. But my sisters were gone. So the blessing in disguise here is that I've been able to have dinner with my sisters, my family, and not have to worry about having to go. I'm based in LA, working for ESPN, playing for the Sparks, trying to prove my worth in a male-dominated sports industry. But now this time has allowed me to sort of reclaim my time back with my family. And I am so grateful for that, because for us female athletes, women's basketball players, it's been taken from us. I always tell people, since my sister left for college, I probably had seen her maybe 20 days in 6 years. And, for a family that's very close knit, because we had to be, being that first generation born and raised here, it's been a blessing in disguise.
Well, you are a blessed guy. There's three things about your story that resonate. Number one, when you said that you hadn't spent 3 days at home, I probably haven't spent an entire week at home since I was 24 and graduated law school, because I've been traveling in sales, and it just hit me when you said that. I'm like, wow, it's more than just having dinner every night. It's me being home.
Being home.
Yeah, that's wild. And then two, just always when someone says Nigeria, I always have my Nigerian nightmare. My boy Christian Okoye ended my dreams of being an NFL star. My freshman year, he ran me over in college, literally stepped on me. And I laid on the ground saying to myself, doctor, lawyer, or failure. I'm not going to be an NFL star. He was so big and strong, and he's so nice, by the way. I'm good friends with him. And then lastly, that was the biggest disappointment of my college football career. But anyone that went to Stanford, I give kudos to. My siblings all went to the Ivy Leagues. Two of my brothers turned down Stanford just to spite me, because they knew that my dream was to go to Stanford undergrad or Stanford Law School. And I got rejected both times. So I tease when I get to speak at Stanford or anyone from Stanford, I'm like, look at me now. You may have rejected me, but I'm teaching all these Stanford people.
Look at you. You built a whole career after that failure and redefined your destiny. Shout out to you. I'm so sorry. On behalf of Nerd Nation, we apologize.
Someday they'll honor me, Stanford. I'm out there waiting for my honorary degree. I'm going to keep on changing lives until you give it to me.
I got you. You are an honorary nerd.
I love you. Thank you. Thank you. I've always wanted to be one. I appreciate you, Shanae. You're amazing. If there's anything we can do, I can't wait to see you back on the court. But more importantly, I'm glad you're enjoying your family and you're learning so much and recuperating. That's awesome.
Speaking of that, anytime you swing by LA, you better come to a Sparks game, okay? I got you covered.
All right. I will be there. I'm a huge fan, not only of yours, but of the team. So absolutely, I'd love to be there. Thank you.
Awesome. Look forward to it. You take care. And thank you for helping us get through this tough time. We appreciate it.
I appreciate you. Thank you. Superstar Shanae from the WNBA. There she is. Amazing. I love this stuff. This is stuff also I would never do every day. And I think I'm going to continue it, hopefully, in some format the rest of my life. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Let's get a few more questions in. And those that I don't get to, please join me on LinkedIn Live at 3 p.m. with more questions. I'm actually going to take a quick photo of that too and get to it. Let's see here. Get to the next question. I had to pause the video. Ask him how in the world did Vince get Florida to make WD essential? Please, please. Oh, I got the wrong Dave Meltzer. Here we go. Let's see. When can we get Mike back on the pod or Insta Live? Mike Diamond? Yeah, let's get him back tomorrow. Let's get him back on. Mike Diamond and I are trying to develop a David and Diamond podcast together for dose. We're going to give you a dose of life to elevate you. And I have a few people offering to get involved with that. I need to get back on the line with my man, Mike Diamond. I saw you on there. Let's get that scheduled for tomorrow. I'd love to get Mike Diamond. He is a brother from another mother for sure. What is it about Join Late? Trading is going to be Road to Revenue on Friday, the habit machine. We kind of been playing around with all the different things to create habits, which will create your future. You cannot change your future, but you can change your habits, which will determine your future. How much longer we got in quarantine? All right, don't attach yourself to a man-made construct of time. It will differ for many people how the quarantine lasts. It will differ what effect it has. About a third of the people are benefiting, a third of the people are staying the same, and the third of the people are not. And we have to determine how the third that are not in a better place, how we can get them to a better place. That's going to be the biggest result or net of this all. If we all look for the lessons, the light, and the love, if we look for efficiencies, statistical success, if we look to see how we can be our own chief betterment officer. I have so many of my executive business clients, my coaching clients, that some aren't making more money gross wise, but they're netting more money. I have one of my clients as just a barbecue, like the worst position of retail, and they are killing it. They on Easter sold out in 4 hours, what used to be a 14-hour day, with higher margins, less labor costs. There's just so many efficiencies that we can create. I know I'm creating them, and creating new jobs and new positions for when we start transitioning is probably the best word into different types of activities. That's all. We're going to transition into different types of activity. The playbook episode with Wim Hof aired this morning. Check it out. Oh, thank you, Jakey. I'll pin that one. And we'll get the rocket science one there. So check it out if you haven't. Wim Hof is one of my heroes and had him on the playbook, and that released this morning. So check out Wim Hof, the Hof method. He has a 40-day quarantine app for free to help everybody. Dan, Jeremy, Wim Hof. Let's get to another question real quick. Keep on pounding these. Keep them coming. Remember, want to go live with me on LinkedIn today, 3 o'clock, all the platforms, and bring your questions. I'd love to answer these. Can someone go from being passive to a shark? I think that's a daily activity, right? I'm a ferocious Buddha, and ferocious Buddha uses his will in order to clear the connection to that which inspires us. The more inspired we are, the more value we can provide, the more people we're accessible to provide it to, and the more we access more, the greater the abundance. The more than enough comes into being a ferocious Buddha. So you got to use your free will. It's not easy work to get into the truth consciousness, to know that joy and peace is inherited. Joy and peace is inherited. That's the way it is. And we are the ones that are corroding and interfering with the joy and peace, which is our purpose. And that's why happiness is the most viral of all diseases and strengthens our immune system. Could you explain about business model? Not quite sure. If you want to get into more detail, go ahead. Let me check that out. Let's get see. All these people are waiting online. Oh, Mike's still here. Let's see if I can get him online real quick. Anyone else have any other questions? They're all lined up there. I'm trying to get. Oh, he left us. That's all right. Let's see who else here. Is this a good time to invest in the stock market? All right. We'll go back over the stock market question for those. Look, time and risk tolerance are the two things in investing in anything. So you've got to determine, utilizing your values, personal, experiential, giving and receiving values, what your time frame and your risk tolerance are. In the stock market, I always look for 3 types of stocks. One, those that are overperforming right now, those that are performing stagnant for the last 6 months, and those that have been beat up. And I'm looking for expertise, expert information, people that have seen this since the 70s, 80s, 90s, 2010s, and now the 20s, that have seen this and can tell me when something is overbought or oversold. Depending on your timing and your risk tolerance, buy things that are oversold and sell things that are overbought. It's that simple. It's math. And there's tons of people out there with situational knowledge and experience within the context of an industry or an actual business in order to help facilitate the dummy tax, the situational knowledge and advice that you have. And I've seen over the last 4 weeks a lot of opportunities from the expertise that I have. My personal feeling, hey, Mike Diamond, I tried to grab you. I'll get you in a minute. My feeling about the stock market for me personally, and this goes to almost every investment outside of guaranteed investments, ones that I don't have to look at, worry about, give any energy or any emotion to, because what I have learned is if I stay focused on making money, that I'm better off putting my money in something that I don't have to pay attention to. I'd rather pay attention and intention into the making of the money than to try to make money with things that I don't know about, that change so rapidly with a tremendous amount of uncertainty. I'd rather have certainty and be able to have a stable environment of what I save, in the distributions of those savings through me for others, and only focusing on acquiring and accessing and receiving. So my focus, all my energy emotion goes to making money, and then I'm guaranteed to save it. At minimum, I'll make 2% a year. I usually make 60-70% of the upside, and there's tons of great things to invest in that respect. And I work with Marshall Falk and his group in those guaranteed investments. Just one of the people, but there's tons of people out there. I see Joseph Storzinger, one of our partners, is in there too. Let me try to get Mike Diamond real quick. I see him before he leaves me. Let's try it one more time. This guy's the man. Want to get a dose of energy, everybody? Want to get some positive energy? Watch this. The incredible, the edible Mike Diamond, and it's connecting. There he is.
Sorry, man. I was changing a diaper.
Hi, real life. This is what it's like in the closets of the world. So, hey, man, I was just preluding everyone that you and I are trying to come up with the David Diamond Show.
Dave and Diamond, right? Giving a dose. Happiness.
And let's talk about, we're got a couple minutes, but I want the happiness thought of the day. What should people be focusing on today?
Oh, that's good. It was funny. I was just on a conversation with someone, right? And the law of attention, right? What we focus on expands. So if we're, like you said, if we're focusing on the negative, the ripple effect will manifest negative all day. So we slow down, we stop, we breathe, right? We observe where we're focusing our attention if we're disturbed, and we change that focus, and we find one little thing to be grateful.
Yeah. And on relationships, you were just changing a diaper. The biggest thing in my home, because we have my 3 daughters, my niece and my son and my wife and my little dog. And then I also have my business, which we're remotely working. I keep telling everyone, hey, pay attention to the superpowers that we all have. Right? Let's not focus. It is so easy to find flaws in human beings. I don't know why we would want those to expand. Right? Why don't we spend our time and attention finding the superpowers? And in my marriage, especially over the last 13 years, I switched from trying to find all the faults and things I don't like about my wife that bug me, etc., to finding the things, her superpowers. And all of those things that bug me not only had disappeared, but they've turned into actual superpowers and strengths. Like the things that used to bug the crap out of me, I now actually get joy when they happen, when that side of her personality where she's a slob or she forgets things, the things that I found inside of myself. Why would that bug me? This is who she is. This is a superpower, because if she didn't have that personality, I would be stuck in my weird ass shit all the time.
Agreed. And you know what? That's a great point, what you were talking about, emotional intelligence. If I feel offended by anything, it's usually not a value, but a rule that I feel that you've crossed. So if I look at my values and what my rules are and slow things down, then I can get realigned to my source and get out of the way.
Which is why taking inventory of your values every day and allowing yourself to be a hypocrite and to change and evolve and expand. Too many people are rooted into, these past dogmatic positions that tell, like, it amazes me, it's like not only their position, but it's like quantum in their nature from 4 generations that they can't allow themselves to evolve. And they feel so guilty because they have evolved that they won't allow themselves to tell the truth and say, you know what, I know last week I told you I didn't like this, but I actually learned something, so now I like it.
Yeah, agreed. You know what the best lesson is? It's the 3-way split. So what I feel, what you feel, step back and look at you, and then look at the third perspective and look at both and why it's not a win-win and how I can match, not mismatch.
I love that. I'm going to look at everything 3 ways now today and look for the superpowers. I don't have to look very far to find them in you. I'm really looking forward to our show. By next Monday, we're going to have it all set. I got time.
Love you, Dave. Bye, buddy.
Love you, man. Thank you, Mike Diamond. Check him out. Positive force in the universe. As everyone, I'm going to take one more question, and then everyone's going to join me tonight. LinkedIn Live, 3 p.m. Go ahead, join me on Twitter, LinkedIn, Facebook. 3 p.m. Pacific time. Don't forget, let's pin it up there, Jakey Bake. Training is free. Thousands of people have registered. We have a really big group of people. The road to revenue, the habit machine is the topic. 11 a.m. California time. That's Pacific time. 11 a.m. California Pacific time. It will be an extraordinary little TED Talk and a lot of Q&A. Great people, great networking in the chat room. So please join us. Invite your friends and family. It's free. If it's free, it's from me. That's for sure. Hey, Sammy, what's going on? Let's take one more question. And how do you choose your frequency? I love that. So everything has a frequency or a vibration. You can only be aware of that which vibrates equal to or less than you. The earth, minerals vibrate the slowest, then plants, then animals, then humans, then sound, and then light, and then thought. The thought which vibrates the fastest or has the highest frequency is the truth. And that is why I pursue the truth that I have inherited joy and peace, and that happiness itself is the greatest virus of all time, the most strongest signal or frequency there is, because you can witness it and spread it. And when you share it, serotonin is released. There's biochemical effects that not only make you happy, but strengthen your immune system and other people's immune system that simply witness it. And so these frequencies have a range that, number one, has the strength of your signal. How strong do people feel who you are? How much can you move them emotionally? It's not what I say, it's how I say it with the frequency and strength of the signal that I have. What spectrum am I speaking at? How many channels can my frequency tune into and attach to? Is it just, 19-year-old entrepreneurs? I don't know. I continually try to expand that frequency, strengthen the signal of my frequency. And then, of course, most importantly, it's not what I say, it's what you hear. And we can control what we say and what we hear. We control our mindset, we control our feelings and what we do. But I want to make sure that I have a clear message. So frequency is determined upon the strength of my signal, the spectrum of my signal, and the clarity of my message, understanding the laws of vibration, that we can only be aware of that which vibrates equal to or less than you. And so we want to expand and accelerate, just like Mike says, by paying attention to the things that we want, giving it intention, what we think, say, do, believe, and of course, our personality traits, characteristics, possessions, addictions, and values, and of course, aggregate those as well. And then we can then pay intention to the coincidences will occur. That's right, luck, plain luck. That's how it happens. Be one of the lucky ones. Pay attention and put intention into the coincidences you want. Look for the superpowers, the light, the lessons in love, and everything that we do. You're in the middle of a miracle, and if you don't feel that way, then go do something for somebody else before you do anything else, because it will change your mind, it will change your feelings, it will change what you say and what you hear, and it will change what you do. Go do that. Everybody join me today, 3 p.m. on LinkedIn Live. Thank you so much to everyone. I appreciate your time. Keep the questions coming. Let's remember, share happiness, be kind to your future self, and do good deeds. Thanks.